I just thought I'd bring your attention to this is where on the island where all of the items are. So basically, the ones that are orange are the 5,000 point ones, yellows are 3,000, reds are 1,500s, greens are 500s, and then, yeah, so pretty much the main thing to know is go right and then go left. At least on the map, anyway. So as you're doing your Daybreak Island, that's pretty much what you want to do. Credit goes to this guy named S47. More importantly, if you haven't already, check a guy out named Doughboy on Whiteout Survival, because that's really kind of what inspired making the video, and I just figured I'd go ahead and bring it up, since it is pretty good information, and obviously if you're on the island, now you kind of have a general idea of where you want to go. So, as you can tell, I'm going to be going left, and we're going to basically go over here and get the two boxes that are over in this area, and then we know that going this direction, going right, there are another two boxes in this direction. So, I mean, that's kind of the general gist. Now, you might notice I do have multiple copies. The only reason I have duplicates, I know somebody from last video had asked me about this. The reason why is just because I placed them there. There's no actual benefit from stacking these. But the point of it is so that when you're actually... I'm using it as kind of a visual reminder that I have two of these. So that way when I go back, I can actually just use them to upgrade. You know, because you need two of them in order to even upgrade them. But again, you know, the idea behind it is relatively straightforward. As far as on day-to-day basis stuff goes, of course, basically doing everything I can for T11s and doing everything I can as far as Fire Crystal goes. I can give you a couple of tips as far as State of Power goes, which is basically, you need to basically save everything for the first phase. For the second phase, you just do your building upgrades. And or you can go around and do gathering and such. Third phase, you're going to be hunting beasts, and the fourth phase, you train troops, and by fifth phase, you're just doing whatever you've got left, which is probably chief gear and so on and so on. Now, the reason I only bring this up is there is a huge amount of stamina I have. I have like 3,900 stamina. Is actually crazy. I've been building it up by just picking it up in the storehouse though every day. Not a bad habit, but it's one that is definitely built up over time. Of course, always picking up the fire crystals, and then from here, I like to pick up the food, since generally I end up using the food more than I do anything else. Of course, the one thing I will point out is, while all of this is important, I do occasionally have people that ask me like general tips like, okay, what do I do when I have a bunch of small troops of various different tiers, and then I have the highest tier available to me? What do I do? Do I start training highest tier and just ignore the ones on the bottom, or do I start, upgrading and promoting? The answer to this question has always been promotion. Okay, so in my case, I have 3,400. So I'll probably start promoting again and promote. The reason why I say this is because basically you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you have a stupid amount of low tier troops that fill your infirmary. That sucks. You don't want that to happen, because it'll end up causing you a lot of headaches in the future, because you'll have a bunch of high tier troops in the enlistment office, and that sucks. That's the only reason why I've always advocated for that. Something else that someone asked over the week was, okay, what about chief gear? If I upgrade my chief gear, does this apply when I join rallies? The answer is no. The only thing that matters when you join a rally, okay, is the heroes that you're sending. You don't need to worry about your chief gear. The only person that needs to worry about chief gear is the guy that's sending the rally. Okay, and part of the reason why that is because the stats that are coming off of the chief gear is actually only relevant for the actual guy that's sending the rally. Everybody else joining it is really only, if anything, it's only providing the troops and or the heroes that they brought along. That's all you're gaining from joining a rally. Now, this is a little different, in the event that, let's say you garrison. Obviously, if you're defending and you're garrisoning somebody, then yeah, obviously the rules are different there. That's where chief gear would apply. But if you're going to be sitting around joining rallies, it doesn't apply, if that makes sense. I guess about the only other bit of advice that I can give you is, if anything, strictly speaking, you'll want to save fire crystals like crazy. You're going to need food and resources like crazy. But if anything, the one thing that sticks out to me is one of the few things that is always blown past a lot of people is the fact that, like in Tundra Adventure, you might be wondering, how do I get these adventure coins? And how do I go about getting the dice and everything? And it's like, well, the problem being is you need them, but you will eventually wind up losing them at the end of the event. So you're kind of forced in a situation where you really don't have a choice but to basically spend to get any of those high ticket items in the store. And so for that reason, it's always been kind of, it bites. Like, I'm not a big fan of most of these events, like Frosty Fortune, even because really about the only value you're going to gain is the red chests. You can ignore the others, and really all you need to do is focus on getting Emporium. And like the same reason, with the roses, yeah, you can save roses over time, but the same problem is always going to be that at the end it will convert into resources. So in a way, it's like, yeah, you're going to have ever so many, but if you want to get any of these high ticket items, chances are you're going to have to spend to get there. And so, and almost every time I've ever seen this come up, it comes up from time to time, but I mean, it's almost fruitless. It's like, it's one of those things you really don't have a whole lot of control over. But if anything, right, shards are kind of an expense on their own. Of course, I've been saving shards like crazy, so you always want to save Mythic Hero shards. If you aren't already doing this, you need to save them, and don't waste them. Don't use them. If you're in Gen 1, 2, and 3, do not use them. If you want my honest opinion, save them and all the way up until Gen 5. Like, I genuinely think that is going to be the best play. I know Lynn is fixing to get another Lucky Wheel spin, which I'll more than likely take that opportunity to try to get her up to 4 if I can. But we'll see. I don't know. With only 60,000 or so gems, the likelihood that that's going to happen isn't very high. But needless to say, of course, with Arena, about the only tip I can give you for Arena is, obviously invest a little bit of gems into this from time to time. And then going back to Arena formations, all right? Of course, obviously, you need to have your hero gear on your heroes. And the biggest thing here is you notice that almost everybody goes infantry front, and then they'll do marksman, lancer, lancer, or they'll do marksman, marksman, or they'll do some variation of this, right? You can always hit quick deploy, and that's an alternative way of going about this as well. But the one thing that you have to pay attention to is the fact that wherever you move these, it actually does play out a lot differently. So, like, for example, let's say if I were to do this, for example, okay, you'll notice that this actually does play out a little differently. You see how it wants to move that over there? But if I do this, it changes it, and you'll actually find it pretty interesting. At least I do, because the way it plays out is different. So because the lancers are on the sides and they're both right on the sides, it actually has the marksman in the back, and it plays out completely different. But that's my only tip I can give for you, because you can do some pretty crazy stuff that way. Like, you could just as easily do the alternative, right? So like here you can put Lancer, Lancer, and then this guy on the other side, and you're going to get a completely different outcome. And you can see how it plays out this way. And just on a completely different side, too. And it's just interesting to me. It just does a completely different... And most of the time, you won't think anything of it. But on which side they're on is going to determine, like, where... let's say, for example, if you had Lancer, Lancer, Marksman, or Lancer, Marksman, Lancer, or, every other variation, you always want to make sure that your Lancer is in competition against the Marksman that is ahead. So Lancers are always hitting Marksmen, or Marksmen are always hitting infantry, and vice versa. Otherwise, it just doesn't work as effective as it possibly could. But that's about the only arena tip I have for you today. Other than doing your dock every day and making sure you grab all of your essence points, helping your guild, and basically going around grabbing your tech points here and dumping these attempts into here. And then if you want my 2 cents, what I do is I actually go into the shop, go to Week, and I buy a transfer pass. I've been buying transfer passes for weeks. Now, am I ever going to leave? Probably not, but you never know. And that opportunity is only going to be here in this one place, and you need them in order to be able to move. So that's what I've been doing, though, and that's just what I casually have been doing for a while. Of course, my state's not doing too bad. For those of you that have been in 467. I'll kind of give you a quick rundown of what's happened, but basically you've got HKE, you have red, HYV's got like the castle right now, so there's nothing terribly exciting going on here. I mean, there's not really anything really to expect, you know, it's just kind of the way it's been. I guess I could kind of show you what the rankings look like. So in the leaderboard here, you can see that it goes core, HYV, FKN, TUA, red, core, and then you got all the other mini guilds. As far as like our alliance kills, core is at exactly a, well, wonderful, large, gigantic number. In terms of personal power, Takeshi is 1.5. Furnace level, we've got, you know, plenty of people at furnace level 5 already. The kill count, you know, I'm at 44 mil, so I'm actually still I'm quite up there. I'm actually pretty surprised by that. But Takeshi's at 194 mil. Of course, Takeshi's gonna be, you know, in terms of prosperity and a lot of other things, he's pretty much on top of the leaderboard for almost everything else. 17 million hero power. He's at stage 470. You know, he's got a kill count of 194 mil. So the guy's a total powerhouse, you know, in terms of what the game has to offer. And that, I mean, that has really kind of killed any motivation to do anything really for a vast majority of people, including me. Because it's like, oh, well, if you're into that, you know exactly how that's going to play out. But, you know, that's whiteout survival for you guys. But actually, that's what's been going on in my world, and kind of gives you an idea of what to expect in your own servers at some point in the future when the state finally opens up for transfer. But needless to say, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.